Hello, my name is Aidan, and welcome to my TED Talk today about the medical ethics of the National Football League. My presentation is about doctors. It's one of the oldest and most respected professions in our society, and they were thought as highly educated, highly skilled, and trusted individuals. People have always recognized the importance of having ethical doctors, which is why we have the Hippocratic Oath, something that doctors have been swearing by for centuries, going back to ancient Greece. The oath has been changed throughout the years, and today it reflects a more modern reality of medical ethics. But the traditional version contained a phrase that is the pillar of all medicine, which is first, do no harm. The story of team doctors in the NFL is an example of whenever doctors break their Hippocratic oaths and decide to prioritize the needs of a business, which ends up harming those who they swore to serve. The NFL has over 117 doctors, and each team has around 3 to 9 full-time positions. This need for full-time doctors comes from the physicality of the sport, which results in higher than average injury rates compared to other sports. In 2020, the injury rate was 1.73 injuries for every 100 plays, which equals out to about 780 total injuries. High injury rates create demand for physicians. However, as soon as the doctor is employed by a team, there's a fundamental conflict of interest that exists in their employment contract. Currently, team doctors have 2 competing obligations in their contract. The first one being to the players, who are their only patients, and the second being to the team. This means that team doctors are expected to make decisions that benefit the team financially and competitively. Traditionally, it has been common knowledge that when a player gets injured, they cannot participate in games or practices. This presents a business problem for teams as they need the best players on the field to win games, as winning has a direct correlation with profitability as a business. This is when players get pressure from coaches and managers to keep playing through the pain, and team doctors help to keep those players on the field. The biggest ethical dilemma surrounding team doctors is their irresponsible use of painkillers by very generously giving them out to players, not telling them about their long-term effects, and using them as a band-aid to cover up serious injuries that require surgery. It is reported that 52% of NFL players use painkillers, such as different opioids or anti-inflammatories to keep playing. These players use painkillers at a rate 4 times higher than the general population. Players initially get the medication from team doctors, but most of these drugs are habit-forming, and players develop serious addictions to them. 71% of players who receive medication ended up misusing them, and 63% resorted to getting the painkillers from someone other than a doctor once they retired. These medications also increase the risk of kidney failure and internal bleeding, and increases a person's risk of heart attack from 10% to 50%. There's hundreds of players who have stories of addiction, renal failure, and misdiagnosed injuries, all that result from the negligent care from the team doctors. This is what motivated 1,800 former players to file a class action lawsuit against the NFL for recklessly giving them painkillers without being informed about the potential side effects of long-term usage. One of the individuals involved in the lawsuit is Marcellus Wiley, who played defensive end for several teams during his 10-year-long career. He describes the story of playing all 14 games his rookie year with a broken foot, but not being able to practice once due to the pain. However, on game days, he would receive 2 Toradol injections, and the pain would be tolerable enough to play. What the doctors didn't tell him is that because he had serious asthma, he shouldn't be taking medication due to serious cardiovascular risk. The doctor prescribed him so much Toradol during his career, he ended up going into complete renal failure a few years after retirement. So why do team doctors make these unethical medical decisions for their patients, despite knowing the risk involved, and then not informing their patients of the risk? I believe a lot of it comes down to the power of utilitarianism, which is an ethical theory that determines right from wrong by focusing on outcomes. This theory states that the most ethical choice is the one that will produce the greatest good for the greatest number. This theory is commonly used in business decision making, which there is comparable to the decision making of team doctors, because they're using a risk and reward rationale when dealing with player health. They believe it is worth the potential health risk of playing injured players and prescribing them high doses of payments if it can help the overall team objective. I think this issue is of importance because it shows how income can affect how people perceive your rights as an employee. A lot of people believe that since these athletes are some of the top earners in society, that this justifies the way their employer treats them. However, money cannot buy your health. Just like every other employment relationship, the employer is responsible for maintaining a safe and healthy workplace free of any undue risk, and the NFL would be responsible for this. So thank you for listening to my TED Talk today.